Hi, my name is Bogusława Syrotiak. I also go by Bo, and I I am here to present a topic on the preparation for first responders for retiring, for living their lives happier than ever in retirement. So I have conducted a research study based on a research gap on the market in retirement preparation. And so often it happens that people prepare for retirement when they think about finances. But preparation for retirement is not only about finances, and that's what this lecture will be all about. It is about a holistic preparation for retirement for first responders, but I think we can also generalize the idea of a holistic preparation for retirement to a wider population. And the topic for today's lecture is Retire Well, Preparing for Retirement for First Responders, using the foundations of occupational therapy and occupational science. My background is in occupational therapy, and I have practiced in the profession for about 16 years when I used to live in the United States, where I also earned a master's degree in occupational therapy, and then I proceeded to earn a doctorate in philosophy in the area of occupational therapy, also in the United States. So I hope this topic will be interesting to you. So when I was picking the theme for my dissertation, I was really passionate about retirement. I'm really passionate about the older adults. And maybe the reason is that my mother was an older mother. She was 40 years old when she delivered me into this beautiful world. And so I always felt very well among older people. And I had this penchant for working with older adults. I work as an occupational therapist in hospitals and very, very different rehabilitation settings, and also in fitness settings. And so I'm very passionate about physical health and emotional health. And so when it comes to my research study, my mentor, Dr. Nerlin Pickens from Texas Women's University, and I agreed that there was a gap in the research about retirement preparation, and that gap is actually still persisting. It's not like it has disappeared. I think it is really under researched, and there is lack of publications on that topic. And so I have conducted a research study in 2016 and 2021. So it took me, the research study was actually a little bit shorter. The 2016-2021 are the years of me being in the program, the PhD program at Texas Women's University. And the research study, I would say, I started in 2019. And it was very difficult actually to find research participants. And for those ones who have conducted research studies, it's not surprising, but often it happens that finding research participants is the most difficult part of conducting a research study. And so with a little bit of luck, I was able to secure a sample of study participants coming from retired police officers and retired firefighters. And so I have conducted the research study, defended my dissertation in 2021, and the study was then also published. So today, this is the agenda. This is the agenda for today's lecture. I will talk a little bit more about the research study, about the publications, and also about the research translation. I mean, every scientist's dream is for their research study, for their study participants to be their voices heard, and for that research study to be translated into practice. And so I will also talk about the Retire Well program. That is my study translated into practice. And I will discuss practice implications and recommendations for retirement preparation programs, hopefully globally. So my research study and publications were really, I would say, work intensive, and they took a long time, right? So, so my program at Texas Women's University took about 5 years, right? About 5 years. And so when I defended my dissertation in 2021, it took another 5 years to publish 2 research articles. And so I feel like my mission in the research study, my promise that I have given research participants that their voices be heard has been fulfilled, and that makes me extremely happy. So I would like to brag a little bit about the study being published, but that's also to come. And I'm bragging about it not for my own sake, but for the sake of the participants who were brave enough to participate in the study, open up, share their experiences. And so my study followed research philosophy by Heidegger, Ricoeur, and the participatory research. And so I really looked into the phenomenon of retirement transition. So the question was, my research question was, what was it like for first responders to retire, to be on top of the game for 20, 30 years, wearing the badge, whether it's a firefighter badge or a police officer's badge, and work in highly stressful situations, right? Either putting out fires or chasing criminals on the streets, to being retired and transitioning into the state of leisure, vacationing, all of a sudden being taken off the streets and, so to say, being put on the couch, being retired. So the question was, what was it like for them to be retired? And it was fascinating to hear study participants describe their retirement transition. And that was the first step of the first phase of my research study. That was the phenomenology of the retirement transition. The second stage of the retirement study was asking the participants, what can we do for you? What can we do for you? What can we do with you for that retirement program to be created, right? To allow first responders to better prepare for retirement transition. So we asked them for their ideas, and we allow them to co-create or tell us what they really needed in that retirement program to be included so that they could feel ready to retire. And I would like to say our study participants were amazing. They were amazing. They were really participating. They were eager to share. They were eager to create. And we had 15 study participants. And so the 15 study participants consisted of 10 retired first responders, of which 5 were retired police officers and 5 were retired firefighters. And the remaining 5 consisted of 3 occupational therapists still practicing and 2 social workers. So the study participant sample was diversified as much as we could in terms of gender, in terms of culture, and in terms of profession, right? So that was still a small sample, but big enough for a qualitative research. I would like to add that the research was of qualitative nature. It wasn't a quantitative research study. For a quantitative research study, we need to have big numbers of participants, right? And in a qualitative research study, what's important is the depth of collected information that we could analyze thematically, and the research data would yield rich results, which happened. And I consider this research study to be very successful thanks to the participants who were participating and eagerly taking part in co-creating the program. So I defended my dissertation in 2021, and the dissertation lives in the repository at Texas Women's University, TWU. I have included a handle here, and I would really like to invite you to check it out and download it and maybe read it. It's about 200 pages of really good stuff. I would like to also add that the collected data was analyzed. The data was transcribed and then analyzed. And this slide shows a little snapshot of my data interpretation. And so from participants' view, we call it EMIC themes. There were 4 themes, right? 4 themes. And from the researcher's view, we call it the ethic themes. There were 4 groups as well. And so it's very occupational therapy focused. And I would like to explain in just a few words what the EMIC themes meant. It may look curious at first sight. And so the supersuit. The supersuit was a very important theme. The study participants often referred to the supersuit that they were wearing, let's say, on the streets when they were conducting their professions, right? So it's almost like a Superman, right? A Superman who wears the suit, right, of the Supermans. And so the participants also like mentally wore the supersuit. And this theme came to my attention when they said that they had to take off that supersuit when they were retiring. And all of a sudden they were stripped naked, right? Because the supersuit was their identity. Being a police officer, being a firefighter, was their identity. So the supersuit was inherently part of them. And so when they were taking off the supersuit, when retiring, they didn't know anymore who they actually were. The second theme, civilian. And so I would like to also connect that with the ethic theme, being, right? So when they were being the supersuit, that was their identity. They felt like they are their supersuit. They were their uniform. They were their profession. And so the question was, who am I without the profession? Who am I after I retire from being a police officer, a firefighter? Who am I actually, right? So they were losing part of themselves, they were losing their identity. The second theme, the emic theme, civilian, demonstrates who were they becoming, right? So the ethic theme, becoming, who were they becoming after they stripped from their supersuit, right? All of a sudden, they put their civilian clothes and they were like everyone else, stripped of their superpowers, being a civilian. And frankly, they didn't know how to be a civilian. So that was a struggle, how to become someone who was a superhero, right? Wearing a supersuit, all of a sudden, how to be a civilian. The third theme, the door shuts. When they retired, the study participants shared that all of a sudden the door behind them shut, right? Meaning their institution they were belonging to, whether it was police station or firefighter station, right? All of a sudden their doors shut and they were out. They were on the outside. They have become outsiders, and they no longer received the memos. They no longer were invited to work functions, and their connections have ceased with their coworkers, with their superiors, and so on. And so they lost a place of belonging. So this is the ethic theme. They lost the place of belonging because the door shut behind them and they were, boom, on the outside. And the fourth theme, staying busy. So when they transitioned to the retirement, all of a sudden they kept themselves busy. They were doing honey-do lists. What does that mean? Their wives had long lists for them of things to do. Clean the garage, right? Take care of the garden. Fix all the things that need to be fixed at the house. And so they were just staying busy, or they were playing golf, or running, or fishing, or going hiking, or fixing their car or motorcycle, and meeting with buddies. And so they were just started to stay busy in the retirement. So the thing is, when they were working, they were busy with work duties. And then when they retired, all of a sudden they lost the work schedule, right? They didn't have to go to work like firefighters, right? Stay there overnight and so on. And their shifts were very, very different from police officers' shift. But they lost the work schedule. All of a sudden they were not needed anymore, right? And work. And so they replaced the work schedules with things to do at the house just to stay busy and not to think about loss of work. So this is my dissertation at the repository at Texas Women's University, a little snapshot that I'm very proud of, and I'm really, really grateful to Dr. Marilyn Pickens for mentoring me throughout all of this. She was my lighthouse. She was amazing, and she stuck with me, and also, of course, study participants. Without them, this dissertation would not have happened. So the first publication came out in 2024. So I want to draw your attention to see that it took 3 years, right, for the first publication to be published. And of course, there are a lot of edits, right? So it came out in the Journal of Occupational Science, and the title was Unmet Occupational Needs of First Responders Transitioning to Retirement. And this publication covers the first phase of my dissertation, right? So this is about the phenomenon of transitioning to retirement. The second publication is published in the Open Journal of Occupational Therapy, and it was published in spring 2026. So please pay attention. It took about 5 years, right? 5 years for the second publication to be published. And the title of the publication is The Development of the Retire Well Program for First Responders. This study has been translated into practice and actually carried out with people who needed to know about everything that came out of the thematic analysis during the research analysis. And so every researcher is extremely happy when their study results are disseminated to the wider public, because they can actually be helpful to people, right? And so that's what every researcher wants. So this is about the translation of the program, the Retire Well program, that was carried out by First Responder Wellness. I worked together with social workers at that organization for quite a while, and the program launched, I think, in 2021, 2022. And so extremely happy about that. So I would like to say just a few words about the organization that launched the program, right? And I also wanted to acknowledge the co-authors of the publications that have been published based on the research study that I have conducted with Dr. Marilyn Pickens. And so basically, the First Responder Wellness is a wonderful organization that helps first responders in crisis, most of all in crisis. And so they have integrated mental health support into retreats, classes, courses. I have also worked as a therapist with first responders who were attending the First Responder Wellness in person, and it was very, very gratifying to work and deliver the Retire Well program for some time. And then it was interesting because the Retire Well program was delivered then by a retired first responder. And so really great idea. And I would like to go back to my publications and just acknowledge very quickly the co-authors, right? So my professors, Dr. Marilyn Pickens from Texas Women's University, who have in the meantime moved on to a dean position in a different university, and Dr. Cynthia Evans, who in the meantime has also transitioned to Professor Emeritus. And so I would like to say thank you to both of them for co-authoring my publications that have been disseminated. And so now about the Retire Well program. It has been structured around wellness dimensions, and the wellness dimensions have been taken from Dr. Swarbrick's research articles, and she has worked with 8 dimensions of wellness, providing a holistic framework for personal health. And so emphasizing that well-being is a multifaceted process rather than just the absence of disease. So basically, if we want to promote health and prevent disease, we can't only pay attention to the physical, right? Eat well, exercise. There are other wellness dimensions that are equally important, right? And so, for example, the emotional wellness involves coping, right, effectively with life and creating satisfying relationships. Environmental wellness is defined as occupying pleasant and stimulating environments that support well-being, having a place where we feel good, right? Somewhere where we can find peace and quiet, right? Whether it's at our home or if we go to the garden or go to the woods. And so that is all part of our environmental wellness. The financial wellness or satisfaction with our current and future financial situation is very important. So making sure that we don't outlive our savings when we live long years in health, right? And there's the intellectual wellness that focuses on keeping our brain active, learning something new, right? Despite like going into retirement, right, where we may not have to learn new things, but we want to learn new things because we want to stimulate our brain. And so, for example, today I love being a fitness instructor. And so today I have a salsa class, and this is how I motivate my participants. I say, well, come learn new stuff, challenge your brain. Don't do always the same dance, right? When you go to a party, but learn something different, learn something new that may be uncomfortable, but it belongs to the intellectual wellness. You know, we can read books or we can memorize poetry. So there are so many ways of stimulating intellectual wellness, but learning dance steps is one of them. And these are complemented by occupational wellness. And being an occupational therapist, I have researched occupation through and through. And I would like to circle back to the retirement transition. Retirement transition is an occupation, right? Because we are transitioning from working, having busy work schedules, right, to a retirement. And all of a sudden, our schedule is to be filled, but we want to fill it with meaningful occupations, not just something to kill time, right? Maybe passively, but we want to choose our occupations very wisely so that we feel personal satisfaction, we feel enrichment derived from those occupations, right? It's not retirement is not just a vacation, right? Vacation is great, but we cannot go on vacation for 30, 40 years. And so it's something that we need to think about way before we retire. What will we do when we retire? And we want to nourish and we want to feed into our interests. And when we retire from work, we can actually develop those interests, and we sometimes we can also make it monetary sources of income. But it could be volunteer work, which is also work. It's just without pay. So, and then physical wellness is so important, right? So, physical wellness encompasses physical activity, right? So whether we go to a gym or we take classes online, or we develop support network. We go to classes together. The physical activity is so important, and but physical wellness is not only physical activity; it's also diet, right? Eating a lot of fiber, right? And there's a lot of to be said about protein, right? Like, eat protein, enough protein, but I think the emphasis really needs to be on fiber, meaning more plants, more fruit, more vegetables, right? And so maybe something like that. We need to verify whether we eat enough fiber in our diet. And then sleep hygiene, and so the physical wellness is very important, but it's not the only dimension of wellness. And then social wellness, developing a sense of connection, belonging, and well-developed support system. So when people retire, they lose a place of belonging. All of a sudden, they are unemployed, right? And retirees don't hold together. They actually disperse. Some of them move to different places. They lose touch. And so they lose a place of belonging. And for us humans, it's so important to belong to something, right? Whether it's a gym or church, or family, or have a circle of friends, and we belong to the circle of friends. So that belonging is so important. I have a dog. It's Doberman, and so I actually belong to different Facebook clubs for Dobermans, right? And so like different things, but that's what we have in common. We have a dog, Doberman, and that connects us. So finding a new place of belonging after retirement is so important. And spiritual wellness, which involves expanding a sense and purpose, meaning of life. So spiritual wellness is not only religion, right? Belonging to a church is great, but spiritual wellness is broader, right? It's an umbrella where religion belongs, but it's really like, what is my purpose in this world? What is the meaning of life, right? So it's a little philosophical, and people can fill it in with different occupations, different activities, different places of belonging, different philosophies, right? But also spending some time on spiritual wellness and answering those questions for oneself, the purpose and meaning of life, is also very important, especially in the second half of life. So these are the wellness dimensions that, thanks to Margaret Swarbrick, I incorporated in the study. And the program that I have developed, the Retire Well program, has 6 characteristics that came out of the thematic analysis of the data. So the Retire Well programs that are delivered in the community, I think, based on my research, should be characterized by being peer-focused, meaning retirees need their colleagues. They need interconnectedness with other people who have retired, right, from the same profession. And so police officers are a very tight-knit community, and so are firefighters. And I have noticed in my study that it was very important for the retirees to have buddies from their professions. So in the program, it was crucial to have other retired firefighters and to have other retired police officers, and not mix them with, let's say, retired teachers or retired trainers. They needed to have that connection with someone who retired from the same profession as they. The program needed to be family-centered, so not only for the retirees, but also for the family members of the retirees. It was very, very important. Also, trauma informed. So those professions are like firefighters and police officers have a high probability of being affected by trauma while working, right, in crime or fire scenes. And the professionals who deliver the programs need to be trauma informed. They need to know how to work with people who have experienced trauma in their past careers. The program needs to be culturally competent, meaning people who deliver the program need to know about the culture of police officers, firefighters. They need to know about the culture of the professionals for whom the program is created. The program needs to be purposeful, right? So it needs to have purpose. So the people who are in the retirement preparation program need to be engaged in purposeful activities, occupations, so being meaningful. They need to have purpose. Like when they were working, they solved crimes, they put out fires, right? And so what will be the purpose for the retirement program, right? To prepare them for retirement, to prepare not only them but also their families for them being retired. And multimodal, meaning the program needs to be delivered in a comfortable, convenient way to participants. So it needs to be widely accessible, and so the multimodality is very, very important. We are almost at the end of the presentation, so bear with me. The retirement transition phenomenon is quite interesting because based on the research I've seen, that the retirement preparation needs to start way before the retirement date, right? And so for the retirees to feel prepared, a lot of the participants shared that they felt unprepared. They were looking forward to the retirement date. Great. They couldn't wait for the retirement date. And then the retirement date came, boom, they were out, the door shut, and they felt unprepared for being stripped of the supersuit, for becoming a civilian. So all of a sudden their schedule was empty, right? And they just felt out of place at home. The family didn't know what to do with them being home all the time. And so that's why the retirement preparation needs to involve not only the retirees or the retired to be, but also the families. All of the involved as a unit are prepared for the retirement. So also the retirement planning and retirement adjustment are quite complex. So the retirement adjustment is not so straightforward, right? So often it may require an intervention of professional, whether it's a psychologist who knows how to deal with trauma or occupational therapist. So in my research, I really argued the case that occupational therapists, together with peers of the retirees, are well equipped to lead a retirement program. So a truly holistic approach to retirement preparation would not only be about the financial planning, right? But it would involve all the 8 dimensions of wellness by Dr. Swarbrick. And so the comprehensive life strategy, right, by the eight pillars of wellness would really be great. But I don't know about any program other than the one that was delivered by the first responder wellness with my help, that integrates that holistic approach to retirement, right? So that's something to think about, and I would like to make a case for organizations worldwide, especially first responders, because they were the subject for this study, to offer a retirement preparation program way before the retirees retire, but also follow up to make that phone call to a retiree who served for 20, 30 years and just ask, how is it going? And so the study participants have shared that once the door shut, no one cared about them. They gave 20, 30 years of their lives to an occupation, to an institution. And all of a sudden they were retired, shut out, and no one really cared. And the sirens were passing by and no one was calling them. And they really felt like not needed, thrown out, replaced by a younger, newer, better model of a first responder. And that experience was very painful to the retirees. So I would like to say that also the research study led me to believe that occupational engagement and socialization during the retirement or post-retirement was vital to longevity of retirees, right? So having work-life balance or leisure life balance, just occupation, rest balance, so important. And socialization, having social support network. So maintaining socialization, occupational balance is really critical during the retirement transition because of the loss of structured work environment that can lead to a role vacuum or even isolation and oftentimes addiction, right? We know, and I don't want to generalize, but we know that addiction runs high among workers who work in stressful situations, just like first responders. And so isolation and addiction really are not good predictors of longevity. Social wellness provides the necessary emotional scaffolding to replace the incidental interactions found in the office. So having friends from different age groups, right? Having friends, family members, someone that we can call, visit, is very, very critical. That social belonging is very critical to prevent risk of depression, isolation, or even cognitive decline that is often associated with loneliness. So occupations like mentorship, hobbies, community service can be satisfying to retirees and provide a feeling of competence, of being needed, and the balance prevents the honeymoon phase of retirement from like turning into a loss of identity instead of fostering sustainable lifestyle that keeps the mind engaged and the spirit connected to a broader community. So oftentimes that idea of retirement being this vacation, right, the honeymoon phase, and it really depends on the individual when it ends, but believe me, a lot of study participants shared about that phenomenon, and then all of a sudden, boom, they find loneliness and isolation instead of this high of, oh my gosh, I'm on vacation finally. And the vacation that lasts a year is just becoming detrimental to their health. And this research study concluded that engaging retirees and their families are very important. Advocating for retired first responders is very important. And so that's why I'm ecstatic about my research study being published, because I have fulfilled my promise of being the voice for the retirees who lost their voice after being shut out of the institution. And so that feels really amazing, and I do feel like I'm an advocate for the retired first responders with whom I have conducted the study. But I can generalize there are many, many more of them who needed their voice to be heard. This program needs to be delivered in comfortable, convenient community settings to promote social justice and especially occupational. So occupational justice is part of the social justice, right? So this program being open to all who need the program is very, very important. So we don't we don't set the access to the program too narrow. And so I would like to conclude this presentation with my reflection that it's never too early to start preparing for retirement, right? So we can start to prepare for retirement today, right? By developing our interests that can become meaningful and purposeful occupations after we retire. So we have to be very wise about what we do, how we spend our time today when we are in pre-retirement age. And so the reflection goes, and we can get excited about living to the fullest after you retire. Yes. So after we retire, for me, that's another 13 years of work before I am to retire. I don't know if I'm going to retire, because I think people are divided between those who want to retire and those who say, I'll never retire, right? I love what I do. I love being busy. This gives purpose and meaning to my life. I don't see myself retiring ever. But yeah, we are divided, right? So there are those ones who are like waiting for the retirement date, like for a blessing. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait till I retire, and then I can go on vacation and I can go fishing and I can do this and camping and all that. But please remember that retirement is not a vacation. Retirement, the honeymoon phase of retirement actually ends, and then we need to replace it with or do along the way something meaningful and purposeful. And so the reflection goes, and it requires planning. So the planning is so important. I don't know if you're a planner or if you are more a spontaneous person, but planning, thinking, and informing yourself, like you are at this lecture, and I'm so grateful you are, because I may, I don't know, plant a seed in your mind. And I get so excited about that. Plant a seed in your mind that retirement planning starts today, right? And I am very purposeful in activities that I choose that I can actually continue way into my retirement. So I don't go through the isolation and the loneliness and being cut off and shut down and losing myself and losing my identity phase, right? That may come with retirement if we are not purposeful and we lose it. And so, yeah, so I really think that I planted a seed in your mind, and you start planning for your retirement today. So I would like to thank you so much for your time and your attention. Again, my name is Bogusława Syrotiak. I go by Bo. And if you'd like to contact me, please find me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram. And I would be very happy to cooperate with you if that's in your interest. Thank you so much.